going to be covering with you how to get traffic and leads with solo ads. So solo ads are basically a really fast and easy way to get visitors to your website, especially to a squeeze page or a sign up. If you can't wait for search engine optimization, or you don't want to learn pay-per-click or Facebook advertising, then this could be a really good option for you. Like any fast track option, there is a bit of a cost involved, but with solo ads at least there's a bit of trial and error involved, but it's not a particularly steep learning curve, so it'll be easy for you to wrap your head around. So in this lesson, you'll learn how to approach the strategy as well as how to measure the success as you go to ensure that you'll be getting a worthwhile return for your investment. So a good place to start is, what are solo ads? Solo ads involve paying another website to send an email to their mailing list promoting your website. So think of it as getting someone else to invite their friends to your party. If you know someone who's got heaps of friends, them inviting all of those people will get more people to your party than you could get on your own. So you're getting all the people from someone else's list and letting them know, hey, this website's over here, you can get this free thing if you sign into my mailing list, and then they'll all head over your way and you'll be able to build your own list. I'll just quickly cover the benefits of using solo ads. They're particularly useful for getting someone to opt into your own mailing list because they're already coming from a mailing list. So this shows you two things. The first thing is that they're obviously not opposed to being on a mailing list or signing up to get something with their email because they've already done it once. And the second thing it shows you is that they're interested in the particular topic or niche of your own website. So if you had a website that was about weight loss, then you could find other websites that were interested in weight loss or nutrition, or any other websites with a kind of a similar audience demographic to you. You already know roughly kind of what people you'll be targeting. So that's the first step in finding a solo ad provider, is to find websites that target that similar demographic to you. In weight loss, the demographic might be women over 35 years of age, since pretty much every woman over 35 wants to lose weight at some point. So have a think about your demographic. What do women over 35 like? What sort of sites are they likely to visit? Or approach it from another angle. What kind of sites are likely to have a lot of women over 35 visiting them? So you start really simply by just entering a search term that's related to your niche. So I might go dating tips for women, for example, and it will give me a bunch of websites. And unless you've changed your Google settings previously, I'm just going to get you to quickly go to your search settings just here, and this will probably be automatically selected as only when my computer is fast enough. So you're going to have to tick just for this, and you can change it back afterwards, easy as pie, but just for the sake of this, it's easier if you go never show instant results and results per page 100, and then you go save. So this will just give you, this will mean you have 100 results on the page. So then you don't have to figure out how many pages you're scrolling through and go different pages. Like, you've just got this one page with 100 results on it, and you can just go from top to bottom having a look through these websites. So I might tab these open in some different tabs and start having a look at some of these. And basically what I'm looking for here is examples of websites that have mailing lists. So I can already see that this is a dating advice website. So I mean, if I had a female demographic for my website, I might consider a website like this. But what we're particularly looking for, is a website like this, because it will pop up with something like this, which says enter your email. So I know they've got a mailing list because they're trying to get people onto their mailing list. It's the first thing that pops up as soon as I open the page. So it's what they want you to do first. So they're very list focused, I can tell already. And if I close that, then I can look down the page. Other places that I might find ways of looking to see if they have a newsletter list is, see if I click here, so I can comment on this particular post, I have to enter my name and email. Even if I say post as a guest, yeah, it still says that I have to enter my email. So that's another way that they can get your email. And the other place, yes, here, there's a whole email sign up here. So if you want these free newsletters over to the side here, then you just have to enter your email and subscribe now. So this one definitely has a strong email list, so I might want to contact them. And then I'll go through different websites and look for these signs of mailing lists. Since you're going to be going through all 100 results to get like a good spread, because over time you might want to try different places, because some will be more expensive than others, some lists will be more responsive than others. So it is good to have a little archive of options for you. One thing that I personally do is I would recommend starting up a little spreadsheet. So for this website here, Women's Health, for example, since it was a very promising option, I might head to make a spreadsheet. Here is one I prepared earlier. And so I might just put the website name, the link to the website, signs of an email list, so there was where you had to sign up to comment, the sidebar opt-in, and the pop-up that arrived when I arrived at the website. I've got the contact details of from the website, and N just means I haven't contacted them yet, but Y would be that I had contacted them yet. And once they sent me details of whether or not they did solo ads, if they had pricing, all of that kind of thing, then I would fill that in there. So if you filled out all of these columns with potential websites from that 100 that we had here, it'll take a little bit of time, but not too long in the grand scheme of things, and overall it's going to be quite a quick process. So once you've got that list, you can just keep a record and access them any time during the future. Now, if you find a website that looks like it would have a really similar audience to you, and it looks like a really nice website, and you think, oh, I think this website might have a bit of a following and it might have the right demographic, then you can start to look for a way to contact them and just ask. I mean, some people have places where people sign up for mailing lists in a completely different funnel that you don't even see just from a quick glance at the website. So it's always worth asking. The worst that can happen is they'll say, oh no, we don't have a mailing list, and then you can leave them alone. But so if you can't find signs of a mailing list but you're interested in the site, then find their contact details. So for this one, I might go contact us, and I might say just a polite message, just asking if they have a mailing list. So you might be wondering, what do I say to them? Because eventually, obviously, you want to contact all of the promising options. So first thing you'll ask is just, do you have an active mailing list? Second thing would be, do you sell spaces for advertising to your list? And the third thing is, if you don't normally, is it something you would consider? So it could look like something like, hi, and then, if you had a name, then just their name. If not, you would just launch into, I'm the webmaster for, and then you'd put your website name in there. I'm wishing to promote my exciting content here, so there'd be like my free ebook or my blah blah. I've had a look around your website, and I think that there's a good possibility that your audience would be interested in my ebook or whatever it is that you have. Do you by any chance sell advertising spots in your mailing list? If not, would this be something you would consider doing? Let me know if you think this is something your audience would be interested in, and then you just sign off politely. So if you're wondering what sort of questions they're going to ask you, I can tell you now that it's unlikely that they'll ask you much that you won't know how to answer. If you didn't tell them in your initial email what your website or niche is, they might ask you that. But if they do ask you something you don't understand, I'd love to give you answers, but it's a little bit tricky when I don't know what they're going to ask you yet. So you can try using Google to understand what they're asking about and how to answer. You can always post on the Affiliarama forum if anyone else has been asked that question, or if someone would know how you should answer, and either other members or a member of staff will get back to you on that particular query. You can try moving on to find another solo ad provider. Sometimes if they're asking something complicated that you haven't heard of previously, it could be an indication that they're used to bigger fish, and perhaps you'd be better off with a different list. But don't worry, more often than not, you'll be asking more questions than they will, as you're the one paying for the spot. So instead, it'll be more likely that you will be asking questions to find out if they're a good fit for you. So if they do say that they sell solo ads, or that they would, you can start asking more questions before you get started. So these would likely include: how big is your list? What is your open rate? What is your average number of clicks per mail out? How many new subscribers do you get per week? If they normally do it, how much do they normally charge per ad? So this will give you an idea of how much exposure you could get from their list, and a rough idea of how much you would pay for that amount. So if they have a massive responsive list, then that's really great, but it also might be a little bit costly for someone just starting out. On the other hand, if they have a very small list or a very low open rate, the cost could be lower, but possibly not worth your time. So you're basically just trying to find the best value for money, and you'll just have to weigh up the pros and cons of each list while keeping your budget and goals in mind. So what is a good price for a solo ad? This is a little bit tricky, because once again, it depends on the niche, it depends on the website, it depends on the list, the solo ad provider. There's a whole bunch of factors, but generally the best price to pay for a solo ad is less money than you'll earn from it. So you're getting more back than you put in, is the basic rule. As you can't figure this out for sure before you've gone through the motions with a list, you need to make a rough guess at the minimum that it would make you, and set that as your absolute top amount that you would pay. So the elements to consider when coming up with a price that you're willing to pay are their average click-through numbers, your squeeze page opt-in rate, and how much money your list makes in the first 30 days. So if you're trying to figure out what you don't want to pay over, as so your top of the line kind of payment, then you might take their average click-through number, multiply it by the percentage of visitors to your page that sign up and confirm their email addresses. So when people do come to your website, what percentage of those people sign up, and then multiply that by 1 to 2, which will be $1 to $2 depending on how much of a risk you want to take, and that will give you the maximum that you would pay initially as a trial for a list. Obviously you would aim for less, and then there's a bit of haggling. If you haven't had many visitors to your page and you don't know what proportion normally sign up and confirm their email address, then use 25% as a rough guide. So it'd be 25% of their average click-through number times 1 or 2. So let's say that you had 300 clicks and your confirmed opt-in rate is 25%, then, and you are doing it between $1 and $2, then you would kind of consider a maximum amount that would lie between $75 and $150, depending on how gung-ho you wanted to go with it. So I just want you to remember that this is a very rough guide. There are a lot of variables to consider, so you will have to decide what you personally are willing to pay. Solo ads are only something to try when you have the money spare for the trial and error nature of the process. Hopefully this at least gives you some idea of the thinking that you'll need to do around the process. The main thing is just to ask yourself after trying any list is, am I making money from this after 30 days? And then adjust your strategy accordingly. So how do you write your solo ad? Basically, it's quite similar to writing a hard sell newsletter, but with the goal of getting them to your opt-in page rather than a merchant. So you have a very short space of time to entice them to your page. So it's got to be really quick and compelling. So the elements to consider are, firstly, how attention snagging is your subject line. This is really, really important because you've only got one chance to get this email opened and you're paying for it, so it's going to cost you to try again, so you want to get it right. So you need to get something that's going to stick in their head. Think, what's this audience going to want? Use 6 to 10 words because studies have shown that there's an optimal newsletter subject line length between 6 and 10 words. Include a number. This is also proven to help. People are curious about numbered lists and more likely to open the email. Tell them what to do, so don't leave them hanging. Give them a strong call to action. And avoid words that spam filters hate. So there's a link further down in the written version of this lesson, which will take you to a list of subject line words that you shouldn't say because they might get caught out by spam filters. But you can just go to Google and Google, spammy subject line words, what words to avoid spam filters. And there'll be big lists of stuff that you should avoid. So it's worth having a look at that when coming up with your subject line, because there would be nothing worse than spending money on an ad and nobody receives it because it's all in the junk folders. The second thing that you need to think about is your strong content. So once again, you have to snag their attention. Do you have an opt-in bribe on your page that you're trying to send them to? So like a free ebook or an MP3 guide to something they're interested in. If you don't have one, you should really get one. Then in your content, you need to tell them why they need it. So here's kind of a rough example. It's basically like a greeting, then some kind of relatable statement. So if you were in the dating tips for women niche, you might have, some women find it really hard to find Mr. Right. In fact, you can begin to wonder if the entire concept is a myth. And then you want to have kind of a question about them, tying them into the issue. So sound familiar? And then a lead up to the solution. So there are so many other women who have felt this way, but there's a book that a lot of those women are now swearing by. If you want to put the endless search aside and relax with the guy for you, learn how, and this is the call to action and the link to the page, learn how with 7 steps to finding the man you want today. Get it for free here now, and then the link. And then you want one last enticing statement. So if anything could convince the weary, what would it be? Might be something like, he's out there right now, you just haven't found him yet, so don't waste another minute. I know you're going to love it. Best of luck. Not that you'll need it. And then you just sign off. So you'll need to make sure that you cater your own ad around what you have to offer and what your audience wants. But this should give you an idea of the kind of structure that you might want to use for your content. By now you're probably wondering, what should I expect? What results are good results? Good results basically involve making more money than you burn. It's something you'll learn only really with trial and error, but give it 30 days after your solo ad has gone out to see how much you've made from new opt-ins to your own newsletter series. Then basically, if you've made more than what you spent in those 30 days, then that's a success. So if you haven't been successful at first, it's not always easy to get something perfectly right straight away. So here are some things for you to consider for next time. Was your solo ads subject line and content effective and compelling? Was your opt-in page providing what you offered in the email? Does it make people want to opt in? Were they untruthful about how much traffic they send through on average? If it's not too big a difference, ask if they'd adjust their price to make it worth it for you, or move on and try a different provider. But if it was quite a bad result, try for what's called a make good. So you want to let them know that you only got 250 clicks when they said their average was more like 500. Would they do a make good and email out again with a new swipe? So roughly about 7 out of 10 times they'll agree to this. So that's an option for you if you've found that they've been dishonest or that it hasn't come out how they've claimed, quite dramatically different. If you have had success, then Yes, that's great. If you've made significantly more than you've paid, then you've got a really good thing going with that provider, and you might want to consider trying for a semi-regular campaign. So would they give you a slot once a month or once a week? It depends on your budget and your success rate with their list, but it's definitely something to consider. It might seem a bit strange to think, oh, I'm just emailing the same list again and again. Will I get any new bites? But you'll find that you keep getting subscribers for a number of reasons. Not everybody opens every email, so you will get new people each time. Different people will be drawn to different subject lines and different pitches. The solo ad provider will get new subscribers over time, and they won't have seen your offer yet. And sometimes you need to show an offer to someone a few times before they'll finally decide to click through and see what all the fuss is about. So there are heaps of reasons to keep mailing a successful list. Overall, promoting your content through solo ads, as you can see, it kind of is trial and error. It does cost money and you can be left out of pocket. But once you find a good match, it can be really effective and it can be a really fast way of building your own list. So if you have the money to give solo ads a go, it's definitely worth thinking about. Thanks for listening, and I